Afternoon, YouTube. Okay, I'm back. I'm going to talk about Queen Sugar a little bit now. Wait a minute. Do my couple of adjustments here. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Queen Sugar. All right, so the scene starts. It opens with Charlie. She's laying on the porch, cuddled up in fetus position, and she is very depressed. As you guys remember last week she made this arrangement, this agreement to pay this a working girl $3 million, and the girl insisted upon telling her or saying in front of her. I mean, obviously, her and Davis already know the situation, but the only one that didn't know was Charlie. So it was really, this meeting was for her benefit. So the girl, she wasn't. 3 million wasn't enough. She wants to also make sure she ruins this man's marriage. So the thing about Charlie, what got to her more than anything else, that he had been seeing prostitutes for 3 years. She had not a clue about that. So she's there. She's depressed. Okay, so Anvi comes out, tells her that she needs to talk to Micah. Poor Micah. He's 15 years old. So one week we'll see Micah wants to go back to Los Angeles. Then someone will say something, and then he wants to go back with the father, and then something else will happen. He wants to go back with the mother and move away. And just it goes back and forth, back and forth. Like, I mean, teenage years are confusing times. So I'm not going to judge him for that. I'm just going to say that he's a teenager dealing with this newly announced divorce. All right, so she goes out and she tells him, and what he doesn't want to hear is that he actually raped somebody. His father had actually raped somebody, and he says he did it, didn't he? And she tells him, well, she knows to be the truth now, that no, he didn't rape her. But she goes ahead and tells him that he had been seeing prostitutes. So immediately Micah jumps to, I never want to see him again. So Micah he jumps back and forth very quickly. Okay, so it's kind of a sad scene. It is when a marriage breaks apart. But okay, so next thing is she's out on the farm, and she's purchasing some manure, which would be cow feces, for fertilization of this farm. Now the man is there to deliver his thing. It's a big drum, big plastic drum. He delivers, and I guess it's like $3,600. So she attempts to put it on her cart, and the cart is declined. The man has got one of those things where you do it right there on the spot. You can, and I assumed, of course, now that that's meant that since they're going contemplating divorce, that that her husband had stopped, her access to credit cards, at least temporarily stopped everything, so she wouldn't spend more money as they're getting divorced. But when she calls the bank, she finds out that uh, that's not the issue. The issue is that Nova has written a $10,000 check on her the money they set aside for the farm account, and so there's no more money in there. And that's why the car was declined. Okay, she goes immediately over to confront Nova about this, about spending this money. She walks into a situation because Nova has gotten herself a girlfriend. And I don't remember this girl's name, but the one that was introduced last week. This girl who she was doing the uh, radio show with, like an activist. Uh, they're they're in bed. It's like second scene in this episode. So Charlie comes over. They're in the backyard in the gardening together. Nova and this new girl. Okay, and I think we had already seen at this point. It opens with them making love. So, and they really do make love. I mean, girls got it made as far as homosexual girls, because they would never let men get out like that on these things. I know maybe it's changing a little bit, but society is much more willing to see two girls making out than two guys. So I'll just say that this scene with this girl is just as intense as the scene was with this cop boyfriend she had before. Now she's broken up with him, and he is calling her and wanting to get back together, but she's hanging up on him, kind of thing. Anyway, they're in the back gardening, and then Nova comes around to the house. I mean, Charlie knocks on the front door. Nova comes around from the back, find out what's going on, and Charlie goes off on her. She's already under all this stress about her marriage. Now, this thing happens, and she accuses her of stealing her money, which may or may not be so. I mean, Nova is considering it a loan. I'll give it back to you. It wasn't stealing. It's just an emergency type situation. She asked her if something like that happened with Micah. I mean, what would you do? But Charlie's not seeing it that way. She's seeing it. This is her money, and she is taking it. And so as she's going off on her, the girl comes around from the backyard, and instantly Charlie knows what's going on there, because she already knew that Nova was bisexual. Apparently, Nova had a relationship in college with the woman. So we left it there. So Nova says it's better than spending paying out $3 million to some trifling slut. And then Charlie stops her. And she says, because the girl walks around the corner, Charlie says, I wouldn't say he's the only, I would be careful calling other people trifling. That's left there. She's insinuating that nobody's just as trifling. So she's got this woman in the backyard. Okay. So let's see what else going on. All right. So through this episode, there's a storm brewing. The storm is coming. So they're on the clock now to try to get this seed cane planted before this storm hits. A big storm is headed towards where they are. Talk about Ralph Angel for a minute. Okay, Ralph Angel, he's got this PO. The parole officer seems like a pretty decent guy. I mean, he's there to make sure he abides by the rules. So he is pretty strict about that. But he's not going to report that Ralph Angel's now left his job. It seems like he suspects that maybe he has something to do with that situation where the company was getting ripped off. But he said, no, I'm not going to say anything about that. But you have to have the full-time job. So Ralph Angel tells him, oh, I want to work here on the farm. And which is kind of what I feel like should happen anyway. I mean, it's a full-time job. But he can't work for himself. He has to have a W-2 form and the whole bit. So he says Charlie could pay him a salary, a minimum wage salary, and he could work full time. And he said, well, if you sign off to that, here's all the documentation. So now Ralph Angel's got to convince Charlie, when she's not in the best of moods in these days, that he needs to have a full-time job where he's being paid a paycheck for the work on the farm. And her stance is, how can I pay you? It's your farm. But ordinarily he would get his money out of the profits. But he can't work on the job without getting this thing. So they're going to have to work it out. The parole officer insists and gets in the paperwork and tell him, okay, if she's amenable to that, and he can show a pay stub, then he'll go for it. But he's got to sign these papers. Also, when the PO comes over, the kid is there having breakfast. What's the kid's name? Blue. So Blue, parole officer's kind of talking to Blue a little bit. It's obvious that Ralph Angel does not want him talking to the parole officer, or the parole officer talking to his son. So he sends him away pretty quickly. Go brush his teeth or something. And he asks, he looks in the room and says, oh, I see he has his own room. And Ralph Angel, yes, it's a nice room, it's a big room and all that. And he said, well, he can't live here. He said, what do you mean you can't live here? It's my son. And apparently, and Vi has custody of the kid, temporary custody of the kid for another year. And so he also tells him that if she'll sign off for giving custody back to the father, then that could happen. But she would have to sign off on it. She would have to be agreeable to it. And so now he's got two people. You got two women. He got to convince. He needs Charlie to get him a job and start paying him a salary, and she needs Aunt Vi to agree to giving him back custody of his son, so his son can live with him officially. Now they're probably kind of splitting custody because he's spending time with his son, but she has the official type custody, and they don't live together. So I guess the kid goes back and forth kind of thing. But he needs to make it official. Okay, so the other thing about Ralph Angel, this girl, there was this waitress, kind of a flirtatious waitress, kind of a tramp, who was the same one who was flirting with Hollywood before he left. Remember, Vi came out and she just kind of accepted that's her personality. Go away, girl, because she kind of expected her to be flirting with her man. Now she's flirting with Ralph Angel. Can get this bigger. Okay, so he's flirting with her, and I don't remember if did they make love? I don't know. They certainly make out. Okay, so a couple weeks ago he had sex with his ex-wife or girlfriend, who are Blue's mother, but we haven't seen her since then, so we don't know if there's anything going on between them or not. But this waitress, it doesn't seem like this waitress would be a good person for him. This is somebody who's flirtatious with everybody. Seems like she's a little bit of a thought. I think that's the right word they use these days. Thought. That's a weird word. I don't remember what the initials mean, but I'm pretty sure it is not something nice. Okay, let's talk about what's going on with Miss Nova. Okay, I think I covered Nova kind of. She's got this thing going with this girl. So we remember, I hope, that the reason she took the money, $10,000, was to bail this guy out, this kid out who'd been beat up in jail. Now, putting up bail money is not a permanent thing. You put up the $10,000, but when he shows up for his court dates, she gets that money back, or most of it. I think they charge like 10% of the money, so she would get most of that money. She would get 9,000 of that money back. Is the way she's thinking. And that's assuming that the kid did show back up. But so they're having this big. We're gonna have this big cookout type deal, family get together, and Hollywood. Let's talk about Hollywood for a minute. Okay, so they're having this big cookout. All the family's there. Everyone's there. They're all dancing together and having a good time. Seems like the mood has gotten a little better. Vi explains to Charlie how it's not about Ralph Angel being irresponsible or trying to play her or anything. It's about he needs his help. She understands that Ralph Angel is not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he needs help, and the only one who are going to be able to help him are them. So they're going to have to cut him some slack and help this dude become a farmer. It's basically what that comes down to. So she has Ralph Angel's back. She always has Ralph Angel's back. She understands him better. Those were the two that were there the whole time and follows the line. Okay. They're at the cookout. Hollywood, which is Vi's boyfriend, is back. And she got her toenails done for him and all this. And we've been led to believe that they've got a very good relationship so far. They seem to be very much in love, even though she's quite a bit older than him. Well, last week they told us that he has a wife he's currently married to for convenience sake, for her to have insurance and so forth. She's bipolar. She was in a nut house on suicide watch. But he hasn't told Vi anything about this woman. I don't know if she thinks she even knows enough about her to say she's divorced. I don't know that he's even brought her up. But he called it her ex, but officially is still her husband because they never got officially divorced because she would lose her coverage. So she comes to the, turns out the cookout, and she is high as a kite, probably on psych medication, and she wants him. She's insistent. She tells all the tea in front of everybody. Via's humiliated. She's standing. She's stuck. She's so in shock. First of all, this woman even exists. Then that he's still married to her, and that when he said he was going to work, he was actually visiting her. Not good. So, and then Hollywood, he's got tears in his eyes, and I mean, he's sorry. He's sorry. He's got busted. It's not that he's being scandalous or anything, but he should have been more honest with her because she would understand if she knew if he was honest with her. So now he's got himself in a pickle. He's trying to explain, and she's saying, "Go, leave." And so there's no big scene there. It's more of a quiet kind of a sadness kind of comes over the whole group. Everyone loves Aunt Vi. She's the mother of this series. And so he goes with her, he takes her away in her arms. I guess he's gonna take her back to the nut house. But I'm sure there's more than that going on. It went on for a whole hour. Let's see. Let's see what else. Credit card? No. I think that's what it is. Charlie comes up with the money. I guess she has other money, but she had put $100,000 in the bank account for the use of the running of the farm, plus bought like $300,000 worth of equipment, and so that's what money's missing. I guess all three of them had access to this money in the bank. Now the girls used it, and it's got to be down lower than $3,000. So that's what the manure costs. So anyway, she comes up with the money, and I guess she tells Remy. It's obvious that her and Remy are going to be together. Remy, I hope they don't make him be in some situation. Can we have one good? Can we have one good relationship? I mean, none of the relationships seem to be working out all that well. I thought Hollywood and Vi's was the best, but now there's trouble there. And but Remy, his wife, is passed away, so he's a recent widow, and those two are going to be together. I mean, that's pretty obvious because she's made up her mind now. She's not going back with Davis, and so I think that's pretty much it. It seems like a shorter, but I mean the episode's same same hour. But it seems like that's all that went on in this episode. I guess we'll get the storm that's coming in. That'll be next week, and I'll certainly come back to review that also to recap it. Anyway, I'll see you guys next week.